intent of the government right now seems to have an overhauled information technology law, through the upcoming Digital India Act, which is still in the making and would be perhaps soon released. And also, of course, along with that, the idea is to have the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill. In the meantime, the government is also trying to tighten the requirement of cybersecurity through things like the certain direction, which was released recently for 6-hour breach reporting, etc. Do you think this is an optimum solution?
If they are connected, yes. As of now, they're disconnected. So the 6-hour notification window actually begins after you have a confirmed breach, which is fair. I'm not saying it is harsh. It is tight, yes, but it is fair to the extent that the time required for the government to react to something that is, that will affect your critical information infrastructure is about optimum from the government side. From the enterprise side, concluding and reporting that a security event has happened in 6 hours is not easy, because the industry standard to identify an incident itself is 96 hours. And then comes the response. So as of now, what we have seen is the CISO.in is doing a good job in terms of when you report incidents, they're proactively coming back to you, doing a little bit of research and concluding what has happened and what has not happened. But to answer your question, all these components will only make sense if they get connected. Like, a data protection agreement contains the statement that says that if you're certified to 27001, then you'll be considered as compliant to the terms. Now, that's a clear connection. But here, as of now, we don't see a connection between the digital law, the data protection law, and the CERT.in notifications.
Fair enough.
You can interpret a connection.
No, I completely understand. And my last question to you, Agni, is that what do you feel should be an ideal roadmap for implementation of a law like the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, given that adoption of technical standards and compliances will have a significant cost and time effort on the organizations?
Are you saying what kind of timeline or what kind of roadmap?
A roadmap. I think what could be the ideal roadmap for implementation?
That's tough to answer. I will tell you why. Because the roadmap should actually include risk assessments. Because without a proper risk assessment, you cannot determine whether the relevant security controls or the relevant protection or the relevant operational controls are in place or not. So first of all, there needs to be a risk assessment or an assessment of, and the risk assessment will, of course, be based upon the impact of the law in your organization. So if you're already doing something, which many organizations who are already compliant to GDPR are anyway doing, right? So those practices are best practices that are in place. For them, the adoption is probably easier. But to your point that, what kind of roadmap? So it has to flow from a risk assessment. And then there have to be strategies which today don't get documented. And each business will have a different strategy. The same requirement of the law can be fulfilled in 2 different ways by each business. And then there is a supply chain behind it. So the supply chain has to comply to whatever the main company or the first company is supposed to do. It's a bit like the data processor and the data controller kind of an agreement. At the end of the day, as a data processor, you are not supposed to do something that cannot fulfill the intent of a data controller.
Right.
So that's what I feel. It has to start from there, and the roadmap has to end in an end state, because you have to begin with an end state condition, right? That we want to be compliant, we want to be reporting, we want to make sure that we are privacy enabled. Recently, I think in Europe they've come up with they are coming out, or they have already come out with Oh no, they are going to include, they're going to build an ISO standard on privacy by design. Now,
Yeah.
the question lies is that important? Is that unimportant? All of it will depend upon that risk assessment that I said that people should begin with.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Agni. This is really very, very insightful. My last request to you, because we are going to celebrate the Data Privacy Day, any message for all of us for the Data Privacy Day from you?
So there is one thing that the whole world needs to do with respect to data privacy, and that's the purpose of the Data Privacy Day. And that is to know more about what privacy is and how do you ensure that privacy can be maintained. And in my view, every one of us needs to know what data privacy is. It's not merely protection or being aware of what the personal data is. It's about how personal data is being used in business without putting the person whose data is being used at risk. That's the simplest way I look at.
Excellent, excellent. And I think probably the government is also looking at it through this lens. If you look at the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, probably it is the reflection of what exactly you mentioned right now. Thank you, Agni, so much for sparing time and doing this.
I'm honored.
We are really, really, it's a privilege for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you and welcome.